Sadly, this episode kinda fell flat for me. Part of that is probably due to the last week's episode being packed with action and emotion, but I found myself struggling almost to pay attention throughout the entire episode. I really enjoyed Riva in this episode, specifically her one-on-one interactions with Leia and Tala, but other than that, there wasn't much that I cared for. Seeing more of the Fortress Inquisitorius was nice, and the hallway at Tombs was a bone-chilling scene. But since I was already expecting the episode to be about Obi-Wan traveling to Nur to rescue Leia, I wasn't surprised or caught off guard by anything. People have been complaining about Obi-Wan being weak in this series, after coming out of 10 years of isolation, but personally, that's what I wanted to see when the series was announced. Even though it was neat seeing him take down stormtroopers in this episode, and be completely dominant with his lightsaber, I've really enjoyed seeing him weakened and emotionally broken after spending a decade on Tatooine alone. The first couple of episodes did a really good job of showing this, and I'm disappointed that the episode shied away from it. Obi-Wan was a major part of the episode story-wise, and yet I never felt anything special during his scenes, other than when he saw the Tombs of the Jedi. I think the absence of Vader after last week is a major reason why, but I've also been waiting for the flashbacks that have yet to come. I think that this was the best we've seen of Riva so far, but it never felt like there was any real threat to our main cast of characters. I thought that Tala might die for a few scenes, but even then, it just felt like the story was moving on, without ups and downs. The Imperials were sort of just there, and the Stormtroopers seemed like easy targets for Obi-Wan, only a few days after he could barely bring himself to ignite his lightsaber. Even though there's a lot I didn't like, Riva was a standout character in this episode. Moses Ingram did a great job conveying her character's backstory simply through the emotion that she gives her dialogue when talking with Leia. We haven't gotten any flashbacks yet, but when we do, I think we'll finally get to see more about Riva's past and possibly her time in the Jedi Order. The saving grace for this episode to me was that it was set at the Fortress Inquisitorius. While Jedi Fallen Order didn't necessarily hit with me, it still has a very solid story that I enjoyed. So seeing specific locations like the interrogation room brought back a lot of memories and got me excited for short bits of episode. Whether it was practical sets or the volume, the design for every hallway and room fit perfectly with what had been created for the game, and it conveyed the menacing and intimidating tone that comes with the Inquisitors in the Empire. My favorite part of this episode had very little to do with the overall story, but rather it was getting to see all the deceased Jedi and other fugitives lying in the hallway as Obi-Wan walks through it. If I'm being really nitpicky, my one complaint about the setting would be in the scene where the water floods the hallway. It's a very small detail, but the fact that practically no water seeped into the corridor behind Obi-Wan before the door sealed did take me out of the story for a short second, just because it defied my expectations and sense of logic. When the path was first introduced in the last episode, I was excited for the opportunities that it brought, but my expectations got in the way of me enjoying what we were given in this episode. The operation was on a much smaller scale than I expected, which kind of makes sense given where we're at in the timeline, but I was still disappointed nonetheless. The characters were never fleshed out, so even after the one pilot was killed by Riva, I didn't really care at all. An ending that was supposed to be sorrowful just felt bland to me, and it ended on a very sour note. Episode 4 lacks the emotion and character-driven story in what is a mostly predictable yet still enjoyable rescue mission, causing me to grade it 7.5 out of 10. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow me on social media, and comment down below what content you'd like to see in the future. As always, thank you all for watching, and remember,
the Force will be with you, always.